of us sharing ideas, all of us getting buy-in, all of us interactively communicating with each other. So, I mean, there'll be some people that will just be, I'm listening, I'm learning, but I'm really looking for people to take a proactive interest in what does social responsibility in the jewelry industry mean? So why don't we just throw that question out there? Somebody tell me. Come closer, guys, because they only have these seats. The minister will sit here, okay, and maybe as he's, but what about all these seats? Come closer, come in. I'm not going to bite anybody. Come on, you guys back there. Don't be afraid. Ah, here we go. The Queen's coming. That is an interesting outfit. Oh, I like that. I like that very much. So I'm asking the questions. So I'll point to people like we do at Harvard. So this gentleman sitting here, what does social responsibility in the jewelry industry mean to you? Can we get a mic here? One of these mics that we can hand around like a conch shell? We have a couple of mics. That's great. If we could just pass them around. The idea here is for other people to speak, not me. Here, give it to him, and maybe put one on this side, and we'll pass it around. So talk to me. What does it mean to be socially responsible?
Well, I think you were talking about that on your panel, and the gentleman, I caught the tail end of his from Sierra Leone, but he's referring to the people at ground level being considered and not being stepped on, and providing a high level of transparency from that point, from the ground, the earth, to the actual end user. And the trail of the material to the person's hand or body is understood, like you've been mentioning and we're here discussing. Where's it coming from? How do we know? And that way, the responsibility for the people within the industry is to have this disclosure so no one questions, what is this, where's it coming from? And that's what we're discussing right now, is how to track something that is around the planet. How do you go to a mine and observe, as a public person, a process and actually see rough going into other directions and how it's tracked? And that's not visible. There's no visibility to the consumer or anyone to be able to see, like going to a GM plant, like, oh, okay, I see how you're putting this together, and where's the steel coming from, and this and that. So it's happening in every industry. But with this, with the people being crushed by and oppressed, that needs to be addressed first, from the earth forward. And then the tracking procedure, blockchain, whatever's being done, so people have a visual on this. And then the responsibility goes forward in the marketing side, where people, as an item is sold, like Helzberg is doing, it's like, here, this is something that is not a blood diamond. So everyone in the industry just needs to say, are we taking care of the people at ground level first, where it's coming out of the earth, and then where's this going to and through and who? And this is what we're all doing here, just trying to simplify it with people who are hardcore, could care less whether you're dead or alive. It doesn't matter that you exist. The people who think we want to convert this to money and you don't matter. So it's a responsibility that's a global issue for a human issue first. And that's where you connect to that. So it doesn't matter what the product is. Why are people oppressed and being killed, murdered, and children, with the mercury? I mean, how could that even be possible? Why aren't they considering their safety first? So you're talking about psychopaths who really could care less. And that's the issue. How do we get rid of the psychopath mindset that says, you exist and we don't care?
I think that's a very valid point, where people are talking about the product, source certification, where do my diamonds and jewelry come from, a legitimate point about social responsibility. In other words, I am socially responsible because fill in the blank. Well, one of those blanks is because I know where my products come from and I make sure that they're coming from legitimate sources. Source certification is one of the things you think of. You want to say something?
Yeah, this is really a huge opportunity for this industry. I come from the electronics industry, and the electronics recycling industry has been through.
No, you're fine. Where's the minister?
The electronics recycling industry has already gone through this whole cycle. It was revealed in the 2000s that the scrap was being exported to developing countries and people were being harmed. Similar conditions and situations as what you showed in your presentation this morning, which was fantastic. But I implore everybody in this industry to get it right, because what the electronics recycling industry didn't do, they came up with a certification and it didn't work because they didn't have the technology as the foundation to that certification. And so it was the same thing, the comments that you made about the Kimberley process, is that, you know, is it just a piece of paper? Do we have the reality on the boots on the ground and the real information that we need to make this a trusted process? And we need, certification is super, super important. Certification takes all of these issues around social and environmental justice and make the decision to the consumer easy if they can say, yes, it's certified, I know it, I get it. Or I have an app and I can follow the chain of where this product came from. And so to have the opportunity that now that you know what these conditions are, and you know what the issues are, and you have the technology now in your hand to bring these solutions to bear and to make them true and truthful from the beginning, it's really exciting for me. I'm really excited to be a part of it.
So there's a great point here being made that, first of all, this isn't new to the world. The electronics industry has confronted similar problems. We shouldn't reinvent the wheel if we don't have to. We can use technology like the blockchain. We can use other documented systems that will let us be able to do things, but we have to be very vigilant about greenwashing. And greenwashing, for people who don't understand what it is, you take something that's not good and you say it's good. It's sort of like a rabbi stamping ham sandwich as kosher. You know, that would be that would be a good case of greenwashing. But I think that I'd like us to think about taking the discussion a little farther. Oh, one second. You want to say something behind? Please go ahead. I really want everybody to have a chance to talk and communicate and share views, and maybe we should even argue a little, you know, get a little bit of friction going, you know, that'll come, he says. Okay, this is good. Yeah, please.
Yeah. I'm Robin Gambier from the Fairtrade Jewelry Company out of Toronto and Consensus Software.
Speak a little louder into the mic. I'm not getting you, and I'm old and my ears are old.
I'm Robin Gambier from Fairtrade Jewelry Company in Toronto and Consensus Software. I want to present a counterpoint to the certification model because we built a jewelry company based on certifications, and we found that they're not good enough. They're not rigorous enough. I've got my RJC audit coming up, and you know, they come and check every few years, but they don't know what I'm doing in between. We do Fair Trade Gold. We launched that in North America. We do Fair Mine Gold. Like, we've been at the forefront of all this stuff, and what we've concluded is that these systems are not good enough. And what we need to do is, instead of moralizing and telling consumers that, you know, this is good or not, what we need to do is present data and let them decide what's good. So this. Yeah. So last summer we did the first legal export of gold out of the DRC. And we track that through our software. And we're working with an NGO to provide M&E data that's gender deaggregated. So I can report to my consumer the female participation rate as a baseline and then the increase in that we did on the program. So I can show actual data around the products. So we created that supply chain, and we used our own jewelry company to actually demonstrate that this can be done. So that company now runs completely on this Congo gold. And so we're looking for other people to work with us. We've got a sapphire project in Madagascar. We're doing one in Montana so that we can validate origin for Montana sapphires. And we're also looking for an ASM diamond project, if anyone has one, in their back pocket. Because I think ASM mining is the key to disrupting the cabals that exist in this industry. And basically, it's like Uber for mining, with validation data and traceability. The technology you use, you know, blockchain is flawed because you can write lies to the blockchain. There's no proof that those are truth statements are real. And so what we've done is we've provided a number of data points around each truth statement that you make so that you can validate what the truth is. So that's what we're working on, and anyone who wants to talk to me, come up to me afterwards. Thank you.
I think one of the greatest things are the connections among the people in this room. So what you should do is if you have cards or something, let us know. And we have a list of everyone's here. And what we can do is if it's okay with people, we'll publish the list. And the name of your company and what you can do, and we'll share it with everyone. Because one of our goals is that everybody should interact during that. They will have another one next year with God's help. But until then, everybody can talk to other people, get information, work together as a team, come up with solutions. Now, in a big way, I think what you're doing is fantastic. The Congo is one of the worst places in the world for sourcing. There's the coltan issue. There's the 3 Ts and all that. Now, I think that it's very interesting when we focus on the product. I have another crazy idea. We should focus on the product. We have to do all that. There's not even a question. But now the challenge is, what about the people? I believe that if a jeweler goes to Sierra, I know that when I was in the amputee camp during the war. It was terrible. But this changed my life. It made me become a crusader in this issue since 1999, since 2000. But what about the people? I believe that if people actually went to Sierra Leone, saw and talked to diggers, interacted as human beings, you would spend time with your customer in your store to get to know the customer, maybe even play golf with the guy or something, or the woman. But think about how much reaction and interaction you would have with your suppliers, or with the miners or the artisanal sector. I'll be with you in a minute. So I would like to think about us getting to meet people, because once you've met an artisanal digger, that changes your whole perception of the issue. Once you've gone to Surat and met a diamond cutter, not just the big factories, which is fine, go see the big factories. Once you actually sat down and you've met with someone, I visited the gurus in Surat to understand the culture and what was happening with the people. I believe that one of the greatest advantages we as smaller companies as well can have is that we can go beyond. We can take that vacation in Sierra Leone, if you want to call it a vacation. We can go to India. We can go to Surat. And so one of the goals that we have at Rapaport is going to be to drive this idea. We're 40 years here, so we at 40 trips, get people to go out and meet other people. And it's the human aspect. We transcend the product to the people. That's going to give us heart. That's going to give us the energy that we need to do things that are really incredible. And so I want to encourage that kind of thinking, but maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe it's crazy for a jeweler to go to Sierra Leone, he doesn't understand it, or a jeweler to go to Surat, India, for example, where they're cutting. I don't know. So I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Yeah, this young lady in the yellow has been, give her the mic, give her the mic. Where's the mic?
I have a pretty big voice.
Oh, no, but this is going to be on video. You know, we're videoing everything here. We're spending
God.
lots of money videoing. So we're going to put all this up, and people
I'm
around
camera
the world.
shy. No. Anyway, I completely agree with you. I'm kind of changing my fields right now, but I was working for one of the big retailers in the U.S., and luckily had the opportunity to, I've been to India 3 or 4 times, and I've been to Surat, and I've been to the factories, and I've seen this, and I've talked to the workers, and I see how they're dressed and how they're treated, and with some of the bigger companies, but some of the smaller, actually in Jaipur as well, seeing some of the gemstones up there and how they're cut and worked. So one of the exciting things about doing that trip is you actually do get to meet the people, and it is a social obligation for not just in Surat. Some of the bigger companies there are actually doing their own social obligation, like every single factory worker from one of the companies, actually the company opened a school. So they have 30,000 children that is supported by the company for this one, just a school for the workers. And they own like 3 other schools and an orphanage, picking up children off and give them a free education. So they're taking the social responsibility on their own, but it's up to all of us to go back and, like saying Sierra Leone, and taking it back to the mines as well. And it is a social obligation for the retailers to go back, and not just the big companies, the big diamond companies, to take care of their own people. So it's very interesting. I look forward to moving on to Sierra Leone, but you should get out there.
Gentleman right behind you, then the lady here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Toby Pomeroy. I'm a designer, goldsmith. I've been 50 years in the industry and have had just a passion for responsible sourcing for many years. I've been on the board of directors for the Alliance for Responsible Mining for the last 8 years, and I've had the privilege of going into mining communities in Colombia and in Bolivia, but seeing the miners and meeting with the miners who are actually using mercury in their gold mining process. And I love the conversation, Martin. Thanks for the frankness of it, the boldness of it, the intrusiveness of it. It's so welcome. Thank you. Refreshing, yeah. And there's a bloody rhinoceros head in the corner that nobody is talking about. And it is that mercury is used by 30 million gold miners around the world because they have to. They can't make a living without using mercury. And 53% of all the gold that's mined in the world, the jewelry industry buys, these miners bring up, using mercury, about 20% of all of our gold. So we're buying 10% of the world's, 10% of all of our gold has been sourced by mercury. So right now, that's something that the industry isn't aware of, media is not aware of yet, but I think we better tell that story first. We don't want media coming to us and saying, what are you guys doing? Poisoning 30 million people and the 200 million people whose lives depend on them, plus the rest of the world, because mercury is a potent neurotoxin that never breaks down. We just have an amazing opportunity to take that on, like you're taking on responsible sourcing and credibility and transparency with diamonds. Let's begin. I've actually launched an initiative last year. We are raising $1 million prize to award to engineers, scientists who will come up with a replacement for mercury, a practical, affordable, effective replacement for mercury. So I just want to share that with people to get that kind of fomenting a bit here, and so we can get some action going underneath that. And I really appreciate your commitment to responsible sourcing and the boldness that that takes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That's great. And then we'll go.
Oh, yeah, the Mercury-Free Mining Project. And I have cards if you want, and come see me later.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
also
give 'em
post it for everybody, yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, why don't we pass them the mic? There, there's a mic. There's right there. There's one right now. Right.
Thank you. I'm Paul Becker. And with the mercury, since you have Warren Buffett in the jewelry business, friends with Bill Gates, who's doing a lot of charity work, maybe somehow connecting the two and making them aware of the mercury problem and how many lives it's affecting, might be a way to get some action,
Yes.
Get them involved.
Yeah, thank you.
Good idea. Answer that, please.
Also, in response, I think it's great, yes, to go on a trip, you meet the miners, but what can we do more so on a much larger scale? Now, tying it all into business, okay, where everyone benefits, why can't, let's say, the government, seriously, you know, okay, when they mine the diamonds, the government gets the diamonds, sell and work directly with retailers. This way, they're making more margin, have not only mine the diamonds, but maybe their government, this is nothing new, to cut the diamonds, go directly. Because the evil empire is De Beers, they will be going direct. They're going to try to wipe out as much as they can in the direct pipeline. And I think this could be a way to protect the retailer and the miners directly. Another point would be, and I just had a senior moment, I just lost it. Let's see if I could get it back. Well, when I do, I'll ask for the mic back.
Let me respond to that. And that's an interesting point. We have to believe in free and fair markets to the extent that, let's look at the Sierra Leone issue, for example. So you get these diggers, and maybe before I go to your point, I'm going to answer your point a little bit. What do we do with the miners, and I'll get to your stuff in a minute. What do we do with the miners who are using mercury right now? Do we tell them not to use mercury, starve to death? In other words, we always have this terrible trade-off between people needing to eat. And you know, when you get down to the artisanal sector, you'll find that a lot of people, their number one concern is, what am I going to feed my kids tonight? It's literally that tight. It's hard to imagine from our world what it's like to have absolutely no money in your I was thinking the movie Midnight Cowboy or something. You have no money, nothing, absolutely zero. So the question then becomes one of, you know, people are working maybe in unsafe conditions, or let's say, an example, a guy, a kid who's 15 or 13 working, and he says, why are you working? Come, minister, sit over here. Why are you working? And he says, well, otherwise my sister would become a prostitute. How do you take your American values from Beverly Hills and try to apply them into a community like an artisanal, you know, community? So I think that I don't know the answer to these questions about where to draw the lines between stopping mercury, because the easiest thing for the jewelers is to say, we're not buying anything with mercury, goodbye. And then what happens to these people? So this $1 million thing is fantastic. Wow, what a wonderful idea. And I think we should get Warren Buffett involved and Gates involved and make this into a big scientific thing. How artisanal miners can mine gold without mercury would be a huge thing. But what do we do in the meantime? Do we stop buying from them? So talk to me, tell me, give me, you have experience with this. So what do you think and you've been on the board of the artisanal diamond mine or whatever, the artisanal, what is it called?
It's the Alliance for Responsible Mining.
Alliance for Responsible Mining is a wonderful group of people, Minister, who've been working on these issues of safety for people, gold, diamonds, whatever, and they're just some really nice people. He's on that board. So tell us, what should we do? Should we continue to buy diamonds, or not diamonds, gold, from miners who are using mercury? Should we not? How does this work?
Right. Well, it's a fantastic question. We literally have somewhere between 30 and 50 million people are engaged in artisanal gold mining around the world on a daily basis. They're using mercury, and they lose into the environment 11,000 pounds every day. So phenomenal, right? And so countries are beginning to ban mercury use. Ecuador has banned it. Colombia this July will no longer allow miners to use mercury. But that's the only way that they can be effective. So by mining in a country where they have to use mercury in an environment where they have to use mercury to eat, to mine to eat, they are now required. They become criminals. So instead of taking the mercury gold amalgam to a shop in town who's professionally set up to do that, they have to take that amalgam home, and then they'll burn it in their homes, evaporate the mercury to get the gold out of that amalgam. So their lives are really in our hands. We have to support them. And I think one of the most important things is them and their governments knowing that we care, that they matter to us, that we are creating an inclusive supply chain, that they are as important, as you said this morning, they are as important to us as anyone sitting in this room, or even our customers. They are critical to our well-being, our livelihoods, and it's time for us, we have an opportunity to embrace them. And I think it's just the best story that we can tell. And if we start telling that publicly, the governments, I think, will start to look differently at banning the process. We have to keep buying from them. And the more support we can give them, the more transparent they'll become. It's not a clean answer. I don't really have an answer to how we might do that effectively, traceably, but there are activities being taken. So the Alliance for Responsible Mining has begun working on a market entry standard called CRAFT, and it's a way for artisanal miners to mine more transparently, even using mercury, but where we will be able to buy from those people. So it's all starting to take shape in a way that is not really predictable how it will go, but I think having that commitment and that public endorsement of they are important to us is the biggest thing.
Right, but I think this is a problem. There's a government problem here, because if mercury is killing people and killing children and going into the air, I think we have to stop it. Now, what these people will do, maybe they have to be given alternatives in agriculture or alternatives in other places. But I think we have to be careful, because, you know, this idea that all this bad stuff is happening with mercury, you know, it'll never stop. I mean, I understand we have to support people, but we have to be so careful. And again, I don't have an answer to this one. And we've dealt with these issues of what do you do when there's, different values and stuff. But I think the mercury issue should be put on a higher level of discussion. And I think we should go to Bill Gates and we should go to Warren Buffett and we should raise these issues with them. And is anyone from Richline here? Well,
Yeah, I'm going to use it.
and so we're going to figure that out. Now, you had brought up that issue a minute ago, and I said I would go back to your issue, but I had my senior moment. So what was the main issue you had brought up at the last discussion?
Okay, well, I want the minister to hear this. The thought.
Your mic's not on.
Mic's on. Mic on, please.
Is the mic on?
Yeah, it is. You're on. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Prime Minister, the thought of.
Not yet the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Thanks for the good wishes.
Well, we move very quickly. Okay, here's the future. Tying in the concept of, mining the diamonds, polishing them in your country so that your people are working, and then selling directly to retail jewelers. So they're getting it at a great price,
That was his
and they're going to build loyalty towards your country and your people with them understanding how they're helping your people. That's the tie-in, of course. So everyone benefits. Also, I think it helps block out. It's one of the first steps to block out and fight against De Beers.
Yeah, but let me just say this.
Okay.
And this.
But also, I just want to add, Jewelers of America, your video that you showed of your country, more people have to see it. Get it in the hands of Jewelers of America so all their members could get it and see it and watch it. You want more exposure. You want as much exposure as possible of what's happening to the miners, not only with diamonds, but with gold. I think, awareness is, a lot of people in our business are ignorant of what's going on. It's our obligation, the ones that are aware of it, to make them aware of it. Another tie-in would be Jewelers of America as an industry, it's great charity, tied in with mining.
Yeah,
For the countries.
Let me just, I'm going to cut you short, but let me say this. First of all, I think you bring up an interesting economic point. I'm a strong proponent of free and fair markets. So let's say a digger has some diamonds, and you have to understand that a lot of the diggers are going to have very small amounts of little chips and nicks and knacks. They're not going to find those big diamonds normally, and you're going to find a range. Now, one of the ideas that we thought also was that people can use rough diamonds in their fashion jewelry. So you could buy a small amount of diamonds, even 100 too. So the idea of interfacing the retail sector, first with trips to Sierra Leone, but also having a video, this is what I have to sell. I would imagine a world where there's a table, a miner stands in front of the table and says, I have 3 carats here, bid, bid, bid. Let's run a live auction on the internet with a retailer in the United States being able to bid for those chips and using the rough chips as fashion jewelry against the other stuff. But all I'm looking for here is a fair market. Because in some instances, it might not pay for diggers to dig. Maybe they're better off in agriculture. Maybe they're better off in other university or education. And I think what we need to do is we need to simply open up our markets to them. Now, I wouldn't want to force people in Sierra Leone to have to cut diamonds if they're not efficient at it. Because that's what one of the blocks that we've had with some of the fair trade movements is they want to do everything. You need to create a free and fair market environment for these goods. And I like auctions because then the diggers themselves see how much did this sell for. But if you can imagine an auction with a video and a jeweler in America clicking and say, I bid $200, even $100, small stuff. But that interaction, relationship between people, oh, I bought this, I did something with it, a designer, I put it on some gold, I made something happen with it. This is a tremendous creativity that we would be looking for from these jewelers. But I don't think the government should necessarily regulate or limit. Regulate, yes. Limit, no. How people trade. So if diggers want to sell it to big companies, they always want to sell it to the bears, whoever gives the highest price, So I think that kind of an environment should be encouraged. Now, whether or not retailers should travel to Sierra Leone and start interacting with these rough diamonds, maybe little chips, maybe whatever, I think that's an excellent idea because I think that one of the solutions to social responsibility is human interaction. It won't solve the problem right away, but it'll tremendously increase our awareness of what's going on. If you're a retailer, you spend time with your customer, right? But you need to spend time with your supplier's supplier also. And so that's one of the big issues. The other question I would ask just the group here also is, is there any economic benefit to being able to say, I was in Sierra Leone, I was in Surat, I saw, I know, I have? Is there any economic benefit to a jeweler that makes him a better person, obviously a better jeweler? Right? Will people pay more for a product where we know that it came from and we have the story to tell? Because to me, a lot of the diamond business is sometimes retail stories.
Well, this is very different from me. I think I agree with you on the awareness.
Okay.
But also, I believe the problem needs to be addressed and as much help as possible for the people. Just getting awareness and not helping with the problem falls way short.
I agree
it's
with
criminal.
that. Yeah, I agree with you with that. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you about it, but I do want to ask the question of, what's the benefit? You're a jeweler. What's the benefit to going to Sierra Leone, going to Surat, talking to people, bringing that story back with you? Is there an economic, because look, it has to make cents and dollars to be good. In other words, it has to pay to be good if we really want a sustainable goodness to happen. So I'm asking the question. So yeah, let's take some more people. Take this gentleman. We want to spread it around here, get different people to talk.
Thank you. My name is Mickey Brookshire, and I have had a unique life. I've been in Sierra Leone since 1978. I've been a diamond dealer. I've been a miner. I'm a diamond cutter by trade. Look, you're Peking. Garbo. Oh, yeah? I speak the language. I know these people. So the experience you want to have people do, I've did it. I think I've probably cut more Sierra Leone diamonds than any man in the world. I've been doing this for over 40 years. I was married to a Sierra Leonean. Sierra Leone is the most wonderful country that exists, in my opinion. I went through the war. I had to go to Guinea. I follow Kaba. We go Guinea. We talk about certification, the Kimberley process, BS. Who bought those blood diamonds from Sierra Leone? Who bought them? Thank you.
I don't know if the Bears
They
bought
set
them.
up an office.
We have to be. I don't know if the Bears bought them. I know I took them to task today. Everybody bought them.
Everybody bought them.
That's
But
right.
the majority, Mr. Rapaport, came across that border during the war because there weren't flights, there weren't people coming and going to take it everywhere. In particular, Sierra Leone diamonds went to Guinea. Cabo was in De Beers' office. He attracted that trade. I was there, I experienced it, I lived it. I had an export license. Ebola, I just came through that devastation.
Go to the benefits. Go to the benefits that a jeweler would have. Your story's great, and I love it.
No, okay,
I
but
want to keep us
my
on track
point
here.
is
What
that-
are the benefits to a jeweler that actually goes to Sierra Leone and comes back, and he talks in his store? Will he be able to make more money because of what his relationship is with the supply? That was the idea. And if you don't have an answer to that, you can keep talking a few minutes more about
It
your
hasn't happened for me.
Okay, it hasn't happened.
No.
All right.
I don't get added value for that.
Okay, that's an important
Yeah.
point.
Right. You know you've had these meetings every year, the ethical, and this is the first time I see more than 11 people in the place, thanks to the minister.
All right, that's good. Well, yeah, we have had more than 11, but it doesn't matter.
So, it's not a big deal in everybody's mind
Okay,
as
all right.
the industry wants it to be. But this industry is fooling everybody. It's telling a big lie. And we buy into it. So, I guarantee you, if you buy from a site holder, you're buying blood diamonds. That were blood diamonds.
All right, that could be history. Yeah, someone else wants to say something. Yeah, let this guy
The
go.
certification at this point means nothing.
All right, okay. KP, you mean. Okay, this gentleman here. Kind of pass it around. It's an open thing.
Hello. Jamie Jockwig from Baraka Gemstones and Jewelry in Seattle, Washington. I'm in the heart of the tech industry, working with the millennials all day long. Love working with them. One of the reasons why I love working with them is because they're asking these questions every single day. And to your question about is it beneficial to go? Absolutely, it's beneficial. I started my business in 2009 after my 4th trip to Kenya, and I was doing AIDS education and awareness training in 2009. Started picking up some Tanzanites, brought them back, sold them to friends, realized I could make money, decided that I wanted to build an orphanage over there, and started bringing these stones in, excuse me, selling them, and then using portions of the profits to build a self-sustaining orphanage over in East Africa. my business is a social entrepreneurship, which means the whole focus of the business ultimately is on raising money to be able to have social impact internationally. My clients know the story. The pictures are on the wall of the kids. They come in, they ask questions about it. One of the number one questions that I get from my clients is, when are you going next? Not only so that they can know that it's legitimate, because in this industry, that's what we're talking about, is it legitimate? And they want to know whether or not my business is legitimate if I say that that's what I'm doing. Because we're used to hearing the stories about it being legitimate and not really being legitimate. When I have conversations with them about conflict-free, I tell them there are no guarantees. And anybody tells you differently, you have to ask them who's in that store that went to the mine and watched that piece walk through and walked with them, with that piece all the way through the process, and nobody can do it. So, and the number one reaction that I get from them is, thank you for being honest, because that's all we want. We just want people to be honest with us about what the truth is about this, so we can then decide whether or not we want to be involved in purchasing diamonds, gemstones, and the like. My business is built, my entire business, growing at 35% in sales annually, is built on going and having the stories and bringing them back and telling them. And my hope is to start inviting my own clients, because I used to lead teams back in the day. When I was working nonprofit before this business overseas, I would take college and high school students. So I know the value of putting the eyes on the experience. And so, yeah, I hope to take people myself through the business and to give them the chance to see what's going on, potentially buy product while they're there, and then also get involved. The hope is to develop a foundation someday where we can have the profits from our own business going directly into a foundation, and then I can start pursuing wholesalers, retailers, others who would then want to get involved in telling the stories of the impact that they can have in these types of environments. So my only request is, if anybody knows a lawyer who wants to put together a foundation pro bono, I'd really appreciate it, because we could use that help right now. So
First of all, that's great. But so let's look at this. We talk theoretically, year after year. What do we have to do? Raise awareness, do this, do that. And again, I want everyone to know I support the RJC. Even someone talked about, oh, they come in the 3 years in the middle, and I still support them because they're a step in the right direction. And even though you can't travel and follow every piece that you do, we are now in the, I call it the slippery slope of legitimacy, okay? We start to be legitimate, we start to do things better. But let me ask you this, to get to a practical point. If we were to organize a trip to Sierra Leone, and we wanted, and you have experience, you've been there, you've done that, would you join such a trip? Would you help us to coordinate such a trip? Could we, because there's tourism, they have beautiful beaches. There's, in other words, there's so many different aspects of being able to help a country or be in a country by going. So, you know, we could maybe organize a nice trip for a week or so, go up to Kono, spend some time on the beach a little bit, see what there is to be seen in Sierra Leone a little bit as well, Minister. So, you know, I think if we could actually get something tactless, something real to come out of one of these meetings, and, you know, when we say, okay, we are going to Sierra Leone, I'd love to go when they actually put the water and the electricity into Koryardu, okay? I sent my son, three of my sons were there. They said, see what they're doing in Koryardu. See if they actually, and it hadn't helped the people yet, but it's in the government and everything. But when the water and everything is, what happens if we actually organized a trip? Anybody, people, I mean, they'll raise their hands, they won't come, but would people here be interested in actually going to Sierra Leone? Would you do that? Yeah. Do you guys do that kind of stuff? Come on a trip? We would organize it. It's a little dangerous. You got to take malaria pills. You got to do stuff like that, you know. But you're good with this? Mm-hmm. People would come? Yeah. How many people would come? All right. Wow. I love you guys. That would be such a nice, if that could happen, I would be so happy. Yeah. No, really. It means that all these efforts, all these years, all these things, we actually get something done. So this idea of going and telling the story, and bring customers, I don't care. You know, it's a tourism thing too, but going and telling the story, how important is that? I mean, you're saying it's very important. Do other people agree that the story behind the diamond, this gentleman down there wants to say something? Pass him a mic, get him a mic, somebody. Is there any mics around here? I need somebody to run around with a mic. Here she goes. Oh, there's one here, there's one there. Okay, we're sharing, we're communicating.
Yeah, I'm going to be a bit maybe straightforward like you've been this morning, and quite bravely so. So my name is Szymanski. I just moved to the U.S.
What's your name? What's your name?
Yair Szymanski. I
Yes.
moved to the U.S. from South Africa. I was a site holder until a month ago. I opted out. I'm a big site holder. But so the first thing when I came to America and asked a retailer, what is it important to you? The first answer was credit. So it's all talk about nice word and go to Sierra Leone and all of that, but the bottom line, will you put your own money and buy those goods, or you will rather choose a dealer that may come from India, Israel, or whatever, or big corporation that give you line of credit? So be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you're also sitting here and fairly hypocrite to be straightforward. Because if somebody comes to you with a diamond and said, this diamond costs the same or maybe 5% more, but you have to pay for it, you're not going to buy it. You'll go for somebody that can give you credit. So you're not going to make a difference. So it's so nice to say, I've been to Sierra Leone, but what will you do? Will you buy a rough diamond? You won't even know how to look at rough. You won't even know how to polish the rough. So you to come and tell a story, and if I'm a client and you told me a story, say, okay, can I buy this diamond from Sierra Leone? What are you going to show me? A diamond that you got from an Indian dealer on memo, or sent from New York on memo? So also look at yourself in the mirror and say, if you want to really make a difference, you need to buy with your own money, and that's what makes a difference. Talk is not okay. There's a lot of guys here from South Africa that came, one of them is right here, that came to try to sell diamond that they bought from the mine or from the government and to polish. They can't sell it, because people tell him, what credit do you give me? The guy have $10,000, he buy a diamond, he polish it, and we all know it's about 6 month cycle until you get paid. He can't afford to give credit to any retailer. And also, I just want to touch about the mercury that you mentioned with the mine. So in South Africa, about 2 months ago, there was a successful lawsuit against one of the biggest gold miner for asbestos contamination in people's land. And they actually won a major lawsuit for a few $1 billion. So it's only that the artisanal miner using chemical. But I really think when you talk about blood diamond, you also need to be careful as an industry not to over-amplify it and put it in the mind of a consumer right here. Because we all know the clothes that we're all wearing, you bought from Macy or you bought from Costco, whatever, made in Sri Lanka, they use dye, they use chemical that go to wash down the river. The meat that you buy, responsible for 30% of emission gas in the world, for contamination. So we need also to be careful not to taint and not to damage the dream of somebody buying an engagement ring or buying a diamond. So they told us to tell a story, but you can't tell a consumer there's mercury in the gold. I don't think he's going to like that story very much. And when you come to Africa and you're here, yesterday we went 4 guys for dinner. We spent $500. To me, it was really a lot. For them, I said, well, it's Vegas, But that money can feed a family for over a month in Africa. And you don't realize it, but for as long as you buy on credit, you let somebody else become your financier and your bank, they control your business. You can make zero impact if you don't put your own money to work. And this is what, so we can all sit here, it's all nice, it's nice and glory, but go to Africa, they'll show you a rough diamond, what will you do with it? You understand? And that's the difference. We go to the Kimberley mine, we buy rough, we polish it, we market it, we sell it. But we pay upfront for that rough. So I think for the government of Sierra Leone, what they do in Africa successfully is to get an evaluation house, which is legit value, let the miner bring the diamond, give it value, and then export it, or let the buyer come to an office in the government and buy the diamond based on a fair valuation, and then obviously cut the money for taxes. But as a retailer, you can go for the trip. It's nice, it's adventure. You obviously scare malaria tablet. Africa is not scary, trust me. It's more scary to go down in downtown LA, I think at night. It's not scary to come to Africa. So it's good to experience it, but at the end of the day, when you buy a diamond, with your money, you make the vote. Not when you get a memo from some dealer. So the finance it's a very big part of making a difference. How many of you guys get stones on memo or on all your stock? Not many, be honest. So you can't make a difference when you put your money on the line.
Let me just respond. First of all, thank you. And I think that this idea that it's not all kumbaya singing here is very important. When I'm thinking of people going to Sierra Leone, I don't mean they should buy diamonds. I'm transcending the product completely. The business of business is one thing. The business of knowing what's happening in your business, the business of understanding what's going on is another thing that I think people have to have. So let's separate a little bit the idea that people go and they understand and they know from the idea that they actually buy the product and all that. Now, in terms of buying products and memos and everything else, if we can establish that there are certain products that we know where they come from, and they come from good places, and they help make the world a better place. I'll give you an example. So we had this peace diamond, right? So I call Laurie Graff. I say, Laurie, I need you to give me more money. He had actually offered $5.5 million before that. And I said, Laurie, you got to give me more money here and this and that. And he's a generous guy. Okay, I'll give you another $1 million. Now, the reason he gave that extra $1 million is because he felt that this diamond could be marketed differently, in a better way. Now, if we can create value, I'm not just talking about capturing value, creating value, then what will happen is slowly but surely people will realize, oh, this is a better product. Like Rolex, for example. Rolex had a meeting this morning on security, so a lot of guys couldn't come to my meeting, to my breakfast. But they're so powerful. You can't be, you know. So when you start thinking about branded ideas, branded products that have this kind of a social responsibility component built in, and then retailers understand that and they're able to sell it and work with it, then you start talking about creating new value, okay? Now, the idea of how you run your business on memo or you run your business on credit is important. But my belief is, yes, there'll be companies that'll come in, that'll buy. I don't think the government should control prices. I don't think the government could even control access. The government should be open, should be free. Allow people to come and buy. Whoever pays the most should get the product, okay? So I think that if you create that open marketness and then you create the benefit, somehow we communicate the benefit, I think that's a big plus. Now, I do agree with what you're saying, that if we freak everybody out about mercury, you know, there's a negative side to all of this negativity. I don't know what to do about that, but I do think that my goal has been to emphasize the positive. So instead of just getting up every morning and saying, you know, this is a bad stone, this is a bad person, although today I blew the bears a bit, but you know, the real game for us is to focus on the positive. This is a diamond that makes the world a better place. That's what happened with the peace diamond. This is something that helps people. And I believe that there is some value that can be captured here somehow. I don't necessarily know how to do it exactly. Maybe there's a, well, you see Brilliant Earth is trying to do it, and you see, you know, maybe the Canada mark is doing it as well somewhat, okay? And you're doing it with fair trade gold, okay? But all these ideas of how to capture value because the product that you're selling has made the world a better place. And I don't know, I'm just one guy, okay? And it's great to see everybody here, right? But I think we need to think about that. We need to come up with ways to do that. And maybe bigger companies will create such socially responsible brands, and they'll be, you know, and everyone will want them in their stores, and the banks will give them credit or whatever. But I don't want to solve the problem of the jeweler totally, as much as I want to solve the problem of can we create value? And I think that would be my most, and your points are correct. We shouldn't scare everybody. We shouldn't be negative all day long. We should focus on positive, but that's the challenge. You want to say something, huh?
I do. My name is Miriam Orwin, and I have 3 law degrees. One of them is American, and I come from Australia, a country in which the economy is very much reliant on mining and exports. We are extremely wealthy on that, and very fortunately, this wealth does go down to the average person. So I see one of the real huge issues in this problem is the inequitable distribution, or basically unfair distribution of the money from where the diamond is mined to the person like myself who might have it on my hand. So this is a huge issue which has many facets. And one of the huge facets, of course, is government and government regulation. For example, I see De Beers as a huge barrier to the positive progress of disseminating information and making that information have value to the consumer, because I see them as a great lot of greenwashers. I mean, I didn't buy anything they were on about, but then maybe I'm just a bit got that take on things. So I think that there's a real, I mean, you have to know, I suppose, what the enemy is doing to know how to address that. So how can that kind of, being that they're so powerful and big in the market and are really trying to very much greenwash all their products, like, you know, they've got that huge industrial washing machine going flat out. and I don't believe it, but a lot of people probably will. I don't think that's a positive. I mean, looking at the positive is important. So how can that be dealt with?
Well, let me say, I think we have to be careful. I don't think De Beers is as evil as we think they are in terms of their goods. I think De Beers mines are properly, certified. It's their market power play that I freak out about not allowing people. So my thinking isn't so much about De Beers, this and that. It's about us. It's about, can we create relationships at the midstream level, the middle level? Can we create relationships between not the biggest companies, but between maybe the guy who's got 10 stores, we've been one store, because it's funny, I was doing this course in Harvard and we were analyzing companies, and family companies get along with family companies very well. And there are case studies that show that a family-owned business would have a priority dealing with a family-owned business in Switzerland, and they actually give you these case studies. So I'm starting to think, if you're a jeweler and you go to Sierra Leone and you get to meet people and you get relationships going, you're going to have a really better relationship than a big mine. I'm not against De Beers. I want you to understand this. I'm not against anybody who's doing, legitimate business. I'm against the idea that they don't. You're not against the person. You're against the thing. They taught me that with my kids. Don't be against. So I'm not against De Beers per se, although I do think that we have to deal with their issue of disclosure. But I am saying that what we really need to think about is there opportunity for people who are not the biggest companies to engage in the issue of the rough supply, or to engage in the issue of the diamond cutters. And Jaipur is great. Wow, how wonderful. And what's her name? Sally was talking about how everyone wants color. Maybe we should all go into color and the hell with diamonds. I don't know. I mean, my point only is that we want to democratize and we want to empower people who are not necessarily the biggest companies, but the world's small today. You came with, 2 days' notice? I mean, the minister's a very special guy who's just amazing. But, we should be able to go there. And it won't solve your problem if you need credit in the store, if you have enough cash and all that stuff. I'm talking to the guy there. But if we can actually go and see and touch and feel and smell and understand what other people are, I believe that ultimately the people-to-people relationships will breed all kinds of businesses. And I would encourage those businesses to be free and fair. So we don't say, the government shouldn't say who has to buy. Obviously it should be, I would support the government saying no mercury, even if it meant that we had to take people out of certain businesses, okay? But I wouldn't support the idea where you have to manufacture, you have to this. I think everybody, the market should be free. People should have relationships. They should talk to each other. And then there should be some training, maybe, about how a jeweler can add value from such a trip. So if we really, because not everybody does everything, and not everybody understands everything, and maybe people don't understand how to capture that added value, how to use it. But if we can create a group of jewelers, for example, it's like you have this Fair Trade Association there, right? Imagine if there were jewelers who joined that as well, and they all said, well, we have these values, and we prescribe to these ethical norms of behavior. You may have that already. And then they all go into Sierra Leone, or they all go to Surat, or they all go to the Congo, even if it has to be. And then they develop these relationships. All of a sudden, we're bonding. And we're also learning. I think that a lot of what's happening here is that this is also new to many of us. We don't know. People didn't know that De Beers didn't want people to say where the diamonds came from, or people didn't know about the mercury, the knowing. And so what I'm thinking is that and then everyone who comes returns an ambassador. They start talking to their friends. They start bringing up, and it's them. They have ownership. I think one of the key issues here is that people don't have ownership of the problem. It's De Beers' problem. It's the other guy's problem. But we're selling those goods. We're actually, pulling in the money that's fueling the whole machine. And so I think that the middle jeweler is also responsible, because you got to be responsible where the money's going, and you don't have a choice because you've been disengaged, you've been segmented out. You're like just a jeweler in America, So I'm trying to break those barriers, thinking about that. But yeah, sure.
My name's Aaliyah,
that is a cute crown. That is a cute crown.
I have that group that you were just talking about. So I'm Jewelers Helping Jewelers. I have 13,000.
Oh, you're the Jewelers Helping Jewelers lady. Oh, all right.
So I have 13,000 retail jewelers, okay? And I just started. So I have the biggest group of independent retailers. So anyone want to reach the independent retailer, I'm the person to talk to. And the way you're going to get this birthright Israel or birthright Sierra Leone to work is by the positive thing, like you were talking about. Charities don't go negative anymore. I mean, I'm part of a lot of blind organizations. They don't say, oh, there's 1 million blind kids. They go, we cured 10 blind kids today. The way you get people want to be positive. It's we're going to solve the mining with this, someone's going to come up with this new technology. So you get people there by being positive, and I do think it adds value. And I think if we say the beaches look great, it'll help you make money, we make it affordable, it has to be packaged like the birthright thing, I think it'll work, and it's a good idea.
Will you help us?
And I would be happy to help you.
And you're going to help us.
Okay.
And you're going to help us. There's the guy there, right? So listen, if one of the goals of this meeting is to get people like you and you to come together and do things, hopefully without Rapaport, although we'll help you, we'll organize and coordinate, and your energy, you're making things happen. And that's a wonderful opportunity with your group of jewelers and your experience about how to work. We should make like a little committee here, and then guys get together, and then let's pull this out. And let's really plan a trip to Sierra Leone. I mean, you came here. The least we can do is go and visit you.
Right. I think the message that I get from what the minister said is we do not want our children digging in the ground while other kids in the U.S. and Europe are being exposed to technologies and focus and are energized, and they're sitting there drowning in mercury and getting sick instead of getting excited about the video, whatever. So the short to long-term story is we want to innovate ourselves out of the ground and improve our and kickstart or go anywhere on the planet where minds are thinking. Can you see on from a Google perspective on our land base how we can actually enter the earth with other methodologies and get our kids and people out of the earth and back and into the game of tech and education, where we can live stream even in a tent to kids who, if they can't transition immediately out of the dirt, they can go to a tent and do a live stream education format because the satellites are out there. So there are a lot of ways to get the people out of the ground, out of that nightmare of digging up the earth, and let the government get into the mining aspect and controlling production to a point where you have cutting, manufacturing. That can go elsewhere, but get the people out of the impoverished existence. We do not want the kids or the adults or their families in the dirt anymore. We want them, like in Brunei, to have a high quality of life and focused on education and innovation. So I think that's the great story when you say you could see Sierra Leone from a satellite perspective, and as you zoom in, you see how these people exist. That's not the direction we're going. We want them out of the ground, and we have great materials. We have colored gemstones. Obviously, you have diamond, which is an important thing, and the gold. But we're not going to have people dying over it. We don't want them tortured to chase toilet paper, money. This is all a fabricated thing. But the whole idea is to improve the quality of life for these people, and to have that as a norm, not the abnorm of I'm going to maybe suffer today with this mercury, whatever. What are kids doing there? You don't see that here. There's lots of ways to do AI and technology and kickstart with equipment. The diggers, other companies that might invest in other ways to dig up the ground and process, and then from that production, money trickles down, like in Brunei, or in the oil areas of the world, where we don't have people digging up oil. We have professional rigs and production, and then the money trickles down. And we invest in, like Dubai, we turn a desert into this amazing city area. So why isn't that done in these countries? Why aren't they saying we want to be a tech innovation and highly educated society and use our knowledge to develop better methodologies to dig up the ground and not ruin the planet at the same time?
Right there, the young woman in the back, and then you take the thing over. Yeah. Well, there's a woman in the back who I gave the mic to. Yeah, please stand up and identify yourself. Go ahead. Not rats, but if you push the button the other way and you hold it close to your mouth, it probably will be.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
I'm Trina Hamilton. I'm a researcher, so I'm a bit outside of the industry, but I'm a human geographer who's been studying the evolution of the ethical diamond market. So I've met some people in the room before. But I just wanted to give an outsider's perspective on, I've actually interviewed a lot of people, and I see that there is a lot of latent kind of demand for a fair trade style diamond. But over and over, I hear people saying there's no rough purchasing organization, kind of to what this man was saying for practicalities, that to get diamond diggers to move away from maybe their existing traders and those relationships, they need to see that there's going to be a sustainable organization that's going to come back and not just kind of one trip. So I think that's really organizationally a missing piece that really needs to be discussed of, and maybe retailers could get together. I don't know what the right organizational form for that is, but some sort of joint purchasing organization. That's kind of my outsider's perspective on what I've seen so far.
Thank you. I think that you want to say something, right?
I just want to say my name is Pamela, and I'm from BC. I'm a goldsmith, but I'm also a social entrepreneur. We're about to launch a company that's a for-profit and non-profit. In BC, we have a C3 structure that we're going to fall under. We're building also a tiny home right now on wheels that we're going to turn into an information center and travel throughout Canada and talk from family jewelers to other family jewelers that don't have the time to maybe come here and can't afford it. We are going to be purchasing engagement rings from the jewelers in silver, made with cubics. We're going to take them back. We're going to turn them into fair trade. We're going to sell them. We're going to give you a membership so that you have a decision also and help us into deciding where that 60% of those profits can go. I think rather than just one individual store, it would be good to spread it out and really allow everyone to participate. We tried to take the product, we have 24 rings already created by people, and put it into the stores. But the problem was that people don't want it in there where it's ethical, and then the other product looks unethical. So by being able to get them to produce a ring and us mass produce it back, they can have a certificate on their wall and discuss, what we're doing in the industry and become part of it. So that's our idea, and I really would like to be able to talk to people here. I need to go back for my investors so that we can have as many cards as I can for people who are really interested. We can't afford to be buying gold rings and then redoing it, but we're looking for the mold as well. And I think it's a really good solution because we're talking the product is ethical, and also we're using the profits as well. So that's something that we're doing on the West Coast. We've been working really hard with also nonprofits, the same people that actually picketed us when the Blood Diamond movie came out. So it was really difficult. They really rejected me when I first came in. You're in a horrible industry and blah, blah. But they've really come a long way to understand, and Amnesty International as well. We need to have a positive message, like, what everyone's saying. And I think that's a good way to pull up. It's good for media to pull up in the town and say, we're here, we're Ethical Bling, we're going to talk about the issues and open it up. I walked around and tried to talk to many of the different booths and stuff, but people are really afraid to talk about it. I asked, would you donate a piece of jewelry? That's a lot harder. So we would like to buy it off of them. Would they like their name attached to it so that they could do that? Many of them said no. They would love to do it, but they're still afraid to put their name out there. So I think we've got a lot of brave people in this room. And I really thank you for your transparency and allowing us to really take a look at what's happening. And we care. The little jewelers here and family jewelers care, and we want to do something for Sierra Leone and correct that. And I talk a lot, and thank God, because that's what I'm going to do, is just talk and talk and talk and get out there and sell some stuff, right? So anyone who wants to talk about that, yeah. We also brought in the first fair trade gold in Canada. We might be competitive over that. But it was in 2010 before we even had the Fair Trade Foundation through Oro Verde. So my son, who is the third generation, has never even worked with gold that's not fair trade. So we turned that into 4 ounces. And I would love to continue that on to the family members and for our next generations to really be able to work with really healthy products and understand.
Let me make a note here in this. The young woman who talked about being a researcher, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder if we could get you to work with us and to create a list of all the different initiatives that we're seeing here. Because there's so many different people with different ideas, and all of them are good. I mean, look, everybody that tries to do something positive, you know, maybe some ideas are better than others, and maybe some will get more economic support and others won't, and people tend to vote with their money or with their time. But what's your name again? Trina. Is anyone here from Rapaport besides me? John, anybody here from Rapaport? Ezzy? No? Okay. Where? Oh, Avi. Avi's our journalist. Avi, could you make sure that you connect with her and that we think about putting together some kind of a list of all the various responsible jewelry initiatives, and maybe we'll publish it in Rapaport, or we'll make it available online, we'll distribute it with the Jewelers for Jewelers, and we'll start to kind of get all these information about all these different ideas, because that's one of the purposes of this town hall meeting, is to allow all kinds of different people to kind of bring their ideas together and work as a team so that we can kind of, you know, invigorate each other and share ideas and stuff. But I do hope that one of the things that we'll get out of this is a big trip to Sierra Leone for all the people. You're going to have to pay your own way because we're not going to do charity, but you don't have to buy any diamonds. The purpose of this trip is not to show up and to buy diamonds. As a matter of fact, we probably don't want you to buy diamonds when you're there. The purpose is to get an understanding of what can be done, okay? So all these initiatives are good. I have a crazy idea I'd like to put on the table and get some feedback on. A lot of what's happening in Sierra Leone with the diggers that I understand are very small amounts of diamonds, very small. And a lot of them are little chips and little things that you can't really manufacture. Like one of the companies that was trying to do things there, DDI, they were trying to take diggers and then go to a commercial operation where they want to get, I don't know, 100 HVS2, 10-pointers. I mean, there's no way you can do that because the rough is coming up in all kinds of fashions and all kinds of ways. And there might be aggregators in Sierra Leone that would put together the rough, But what I was thinking is, imagine there's a table, and there's a video camera on the table. And the artisanal miner shows up at the table and says, my name is so-and-so, my license is so-and-so, or not. But I'm government approved, I'm paying taxes and this. And I have this 2 carats of diamonds, chips, knickknacks. Who will offer me a price? And you have a video channel right to the United States with 1,000 jewelers watching what's going on. And if they push the button, say, I'll bid this, I'll handle the payments and all that stuff at Rapaport. And then all of a sudden, this guy buys some chips, and they take a little gold plate, and they put the chips this way, and that guy. I'm talking about actual rough jewelry, fashion jewelry, crafted with rough diamonds from Sierra Leone, even like chips. A non-commercial, big kind of, we're making thousands of carats of the, I'm not talking about competing with Signet here, okay? I'm talking about us as smaller people using our intimacy, our designing, our fun stuff. We have to have fun, everybody. This has to be fun. So doing something like that, which then opens it. It's not going to solve the bigger problems that you have as Minister of Mines with all the big mines. But what it's going to do is it's going to start to break down the relationships. So I was thinking something like that might even be an opportunity, among other opportunities. I'm a big believer there should be no exclusivities. I'm a big believer that no one should control things. I'm a big believer in competition and open markets. So I'm thinking, and then you get these types of people coming in and they're all watching and they're all bidding and because what is $200, $300 to us? But to a digger at Sierra Leone, $200, my God, it's a huge amount, okay? So if we can think this through, and I don't know, we'll write a plan or something like that. It was one of the ideas that I had, but I want to hear other people's ideas. What could we do from a practical perspective? So we'll go a trip, fine. Everyone agrees, we'll try to do a trip to Sierra Leone. Fine. But what else could we do? What levels of documentation can we do? Is fair trade, and I'm differentiating fair trade from legitimate. Fair trade is where you'd have, like the DDI might be more fair trade orientated because they have a community and they've identified everybody who's a member of the group and they have certain rights for women and they have certain rights for this and that. But is there a way to do fair trade jewelry or diamonds for start with the diamonds out of Sierra Leone? And I know you're an expert in this, and could someone talk to that? Yes, I'm sorry. Minister wants to speak. Give me the mic. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yes, you've raised a whole range of issues. Good reason for going to Sierra Leone, because if you go, you'll find answers to some of your questions. But we have here with us Mr. Kuruma. We have a Directorate of Precious Minerals Trading, and they are like responsible for regulating diamond trade. They are responsible for monitoring transparency in diamond trade. Well, he will tell you if we give him 5 minutes or so.
Please.
What it is that they do and what it is that they have achieved so far. But let me say this. From a purely corporate social responsibility point of view, a lot of the mining companies have suffered environmental damage. A lot of the mining communities are deprived. A lot of the mining communities are yearning for help, for support of various kinds, all of which rarely leads to an improved quality of life. Now, for those in mining, big, medium, small, what can you do for those people? How can you help those people? Personally, I am very interested in that because, like I told you, I come from this mining district, but there are mining activities elsewhere around the country, and environmental damage is a serious problem. It's not just going in and getting the diamonds out and moving on. What is there to say for life after diamonds? There was a World Bank project that dealt with that exactly. They were helping communities design programs that would help them survive after diamonds. But we have to say, given geodata, and he can talk about this, diamonds are going to be with us for a long time in Sierra Leone. So we are going to need to find ways of harnessing what we have got so that while the diamonds last, when the diamonds go, Sierra Leone will be a place that you would love to go to. Already it's very beautiful in so many ways. The people are nice, the beaches are nice, and the tourism industry has to grow. I mean, you were asking, what is the economic gain if I went to Sierra Leone? Certainly to Sierra Leoneans, there will, given the entertainment industry, for instance, there is a lot to gain from going there. But once you are there are opportunities, I think, from diamond-related activities that you can invest into. All right? The entertainment industry is one. Hotels are springing up all over the place on the beaches. Everywhere in Sierra Leone is not like Koyadu. But what we are saying is, I want to wake up in the middle of the night at the press of a button. There is light in my room, in my house. I want to be able to go to hospital and get the treatment that I need. I don't have to go to Ghana or someplace else to receive first-class medical treatment, no. One of the best hospitals, I'm not sure if I should call it that, in Kono district, belongs to Koidu Limited. This is a branch of Octea Mining. But their services are limited to their staff. And this is in Kono, where the diamonds come from, that they used to do this. Why don't the people in Koidu benefit from that clinic, for instance, directly? But they have their own problems as well, these people, the Octeas and the whatever, because they do invest a lot of money. But can there be a meeting point where this is the profit you have made? How much of that are you going to give back to us in Sierra Leone so that we improve the quality of life of our people? These are the kinds of things that I am particularly interested in. And the government, our government now, is ready to work with investors, create a friendly enough environment so that it's a win-win situation for everybody who is there. Those of you who go, those of us you find there, it is the kind of thing that would make us happy. So that, I mean, if you had a good university in Sierra Leone, for instance, then you don't have people wanting to come to the US, or wanting to go to Europe, wanting to go, because then, you know, you will be creating problems for those people out there. It's a source of corruption. We can avoid that. And one way we could reduce the pressure on the mining industry is by improving the quality of life for people in the rural communities, because they flock into only 6 chiefdoms produce diamonds out of 14 in Kono. But the other 8 chiefdoms are depopulated because they move into the mining areas. The mining areas become congested. Agriculture suffers, other activities suffer, because diamonds, you know, are a quick way, because of its intrinsic value, making quick money. So we are looking at policies that will make these kinds of things, we limit, you will not wipe it out completely, but we limit these kinds of situations and in what we have, so that people can still stay in their communities, their rural communities, but enjoy good quality of life, good schools, good health centers, good recreational facilities, parks here, parks there, which is why we are saying education is key to what we are doing, because it will open doors. I mean, there's a direct relationship between quality of education and quality of life, quality of development. So we are putting premium on education. And part of our policy is going to be whatever money we make out of the diamond industry, a percentage of that goes into education, goes into health, goes into agriculture. These are the kinds of things that we are looking at. Talking about artisanal miners, again, Kwedu Limited, they are into kimberlite now in a heavy way, but they are going back to alluvial mining. Because what has been happening is, because the mining activities were not properly regulated, you have areas believed not to be productive anymore, but still have diamonds. So Kwedu Limited is not only into kimberlite, they are also into alluvial mining now. But like I say, we have this Directorate of Precious Minerals Trading, and maybe what they are doing, what they have done, we can hear about a little from Mr.
Please.
Kuruma.
Thank you. Are you all getting me? Thank you, Mr. Minister. I am Samuel Kuruma. I work for the National Minerals Agency. It's an agency that has the responsibility to implement policies made by the Ministry of Mineral Resources, of which Dr. Manye is the minister. The National Minerals Agency has various directorates. One of the directorates is the Directorate of Precious Minerals Trading. Another is the Directorate of Mines. Then you have Geology, and of course we have Finance and Administration. Presently, I am the Acting Director of Precious Minerals Trading Directorate. We are responsible basically to look at diamonds, appraise diamonds at the point of export. So we value diamonds for export. The Directorate of Mines issue licenses to people who want to export. So we at the Precious Minerals, we have a sort of 3 kinds of arrangement when we are valuing diamonds. But we also have the responsibility to assay gold and collect revenue on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone. In diamonds, we have a 3 system we look at before we determine the tax, before we determine or we levy a tax. Now, the arrangement is that a licensed exporter comes with his or her goods or her diamonds, and the government buyers have to look at it, and they set their own price. And then there's an independent diamond valuer consultancy contracted by government. So they too put their own value and come up with a price independently. And the exporter also has to give us a price. So at the end of the day, we are left with 3 prices. And the regulation is that we take the highest of the 3. If, for example, our own, as government valuers, we have the higher of the 3, so we levy tax on the highest of the 3 prices. And in most cases, our differences is not more than 5%. If there is anything, any big gap, then there is room to go over everything and see where we went wrong. And aiding us in our evaluation system, we have one of the best Yehuda column machine that we did, that helps us, guides us in our prices. And we have a computerized system that helps us calculate our prices, which is being supported by the independent diamond valuers contracted by government. Then the regulation tells us how we levy the taxes. In the case of diamonds, if you have what we call a special stone, right, not necessarily in terms of carat, but in terms of value. If, for example, you have a stone, let's say a fancy stone that is about 5 carat, but it's worth $1 million, the regulation is that we levy a 15% tax on that. Or if you have a white gemstone, which is above 11 carat, but its value is 500,000 and above, we levy a 15% tax on it. In other cases wherein the prices are not up to that level, it's a 3% tax levy across the board for diamonds. For gold, we also have a gold unit, and we have trained people who look at the gold, and they assess it according to the international price. But for gold, it is 3% tax that we do levy. We are also responsible for the issuance of the Kimberley process. We are the key focal point for Sierra Leone for the Kimberley process certification scheme. And we have regulations which we have to look at. We have minimum requirements which we need to abide by before we issue these certificates. For example, we have what we call the traceability system, wherein you have to show us where you as a dealer or you as an exporter, because we deal with exporters, you have to tell us, give us your books, which is being inspected by an appointed mines monitor by the government. He or she looks at your books, your receipts, what you bought, because the receipt books, your books have to give us the information, which dealer you bought to, what was the carat, what was the value. So that is to help us to assess, the traceability aspect of it. And also at the dealer level, government has mines monitors who inspect books, receipt books of these dealers, down to the miners. So it's like every stone mined out, both at the artisanal level and in the industrial level, must be accounted for through a record. And the mines monitors have the responsibility to ensure that their books are checks, their records are checks before they come to the export office to do their export. And we also, at that level, inspect their books, and that is done by the mines monitors. So these revenues are being collected, and we ask the exporters to pay directly into the central bank. We just give the charges, how much they have to pay, and they pay into the central banks, and then we get the receipts, we get the invoices, then we issue out the Kimberley certificate. And added to that, there is a regulation that you must be dealing with one of the local banks to ensure that the money you transfer into Sierra Leone came through one of the local banks so that we'll be able to reconcile what you brought in and what you exported. In the absence of that, it will be difficult to carry your export because the law says you should use one of the local banks. You should not bring in physical cash outside the banking system. And in the validation process, when it's going on, we have a customs representative that is under the National Revenue Authority, and we have mines monitors watching and looking at us, what we are doing. Our office is well open. It's open up. It's for a transparent way of doing things. We've got CCTV installed, so everything that we do there is being under the watch of a CCTV. So we are very transparent and we are very open. I've been enjoying the discussions and the trip to Sierra Leone. I think one of my view about, I noticed about the industry in Sierra Leone is that, yes, it is, you give licenses, you have 10 or more people with export license, but the unfortunate thing is that you have very few strong players. It's like one or two companies almost have the monopoly to buy. And because of the absence of that competition, I don't think the diggers or the miners really are getting fair prices. Maybe such a visit will enable to sort of energize the dealers and the miners to say, look, okay, we're starting to have people come in which maybe can open up this market and save us from these few players who virtually have monopoly over the market. You can have 10 or more export license holders presently, but you have one or two who are very strong buyers. And because of that, I'm not too sure, but because of that, they might not be given fair prices. So if it opens up more competition from countries like the United States, where you see you have 41, they consume 41% of the world diamonds, then maybe that will give hope to the people, to the miners and the diggers to say, look, now let's hear from another side. So with that note, I stop so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me also add to what he just said. We are in the process of reviewing all mining leases that we have given out to people. We are also in the process of reviewing a 2009 Mines and Minerals Act, and we are open to suggestions. I have already started talking to various mining companies in the country. What do you think what are your views on our Mines and Minerals Act? Are you disadvantaged in any way? How? Bottom line, we are asking questions. We want to review our Mines and Minerals Act. And so those of you who have questions, for instance, about the Kimberley process, there is an opportunity here.
Actually, you need a mic? Yeah, sure. I'm trying to get a...
Thank you, ministers. Is this on?
Yeah.
And thank you, Martin, for hosting this. I'm Jeffrey Bergman from Primagem in Bangkok, and I'm here with representatives from the Bua Obsa Association, the Shikiso Emerald Mine in Ethiopia that the April issue of Rapaport ran an article on. Although we have a great community support going on there, educational support, building schools, employing women, infrastructure development, et cetera, what we lack is an independent verification of that so that the retail jeweler can say, I want to feature Shikiso brand Ethiopian emeralds because we're confident that they're ethically sourced and transparently presented to the market. So that's our big challenge right now. We're not a Gemfields. Gemfields has a multi-million-dollar budget. We have thousands of dollars of budget. So how does a small player like us, just entering the market, achieve that international recognition and certification to verify the fact that we are community supporting, employing women, educating children, building schools and clinics, et cetera, so that the retailer is confident in representing our Shakiso brand Emerald to their retail buyers. Help!
Wait 1 second. Let's get the armed guys. Let's get you guys. You guys work with fair trade and all that? Can you answer his question? Let me get you a microphone here. Sorry, I don't want to take your mic. I know you want to talk about buying and selling and trading and dealing, but let me get this done. Because I think it's a very important point. You're doing good, but no one knows that you're doing good. How do you confirm? Talk to him? He's the guy.
And I don't actually have an answer, because you're really talking about marketing and introducing something, and personally I have not been involved in that. The Alliance for Responsible Mining, I know they're really engaged, and they could probably provide you some support, so I can give you their number, the people to talk to there.
Thank you. Every little bit helps.
Hi, I can help you. Using the whole point of a software system is to make it accessible and inexpensive. Many smalls can beat one large, and that's kind of the model. So we're also working with SCS Scientific Certification Systems. They're doing environmental audits on the platform. So we have those. We're working with an NGO. They also provide services to verify the claims that you're making. So come and talk to me afterwards, please.
Thank you.
No one's got anything to say?
I have a question.
Come on. Wait, this gentleman, I took the mic from him, but I guess he ran away or something. But
My name is Bisrat. I'm with Shakiso Emerald.
a little louder, a little louder.
My name is Bisrat. I'm with Shakiso Emerald out of Ethiopia. And a question I have is, where does the consumer status in this social responsibility in the United States right now? What we've been talking about what the dealer or the retailer can do, but I'd like to learn more as to where is the consumer at.
I'm sorry, I gotta talk on this.
We'll give you the mic. We got you the mic.
Okay,
Here's the mic.
People don't understand. I grew up in a retail jewelry store. And emerald dealers, I appreciate you, but all you know is emeralds. You know one thing, okay? I mean, a jeweler has to, know the media, and they have to be a social media expert, and the Instagram, and they have to know how to size a tag watch, and they have to know opals, and they have to know what's the latest diamonds, and they have to know what a synthetic, doublet looks like. It is so hard. They have so many things, and they have to make sure Becky is not fighting with Kim, and there's not enough and stuff, and so they have so much, and they come to this, and the lighting guy says that, your lighting's terrible. The lighting's the most important, and then you go to the ethical conference. Well, the ethical is the most important, and then you go to the social media. Well, reviews are everything, and everybody tells them that something else is the most important. So the only way you can get anything done is to spoon feed and make it easier for them, because they need the help, and they're good people, and they want to do ethical, but they don't even know where to start. So once I heard that, you don't need to keep kosher, but each bite of kosher pizza is a step in the right direction. So it's like they need the baby steps. You have to give them that first bite of kosher pizza, and you just have to put it on their plate. And so I try to give them free pictures for them to use, or they need to, like even the birthright package. Sorry, I keep calling it that. Even the package, the trip to Sierra Leone has to be like the diamond experience, and it has to be in a cute little package, and then maybe they'll have time as a retailer to look at it. So you asked how to explain the retail jeweler. I'm here to represent them, and I just want you to know why they do want to care about you, but they also want to care about so many things, and they're just too overwhelmed.
I think there's a need here for some kind of a commitment made by certain jewelers regarding their sourcing. Maybe not all of their sourcing, because they have a problem with that. It's difficult to, say everything I buy is this or that, like perfection's the enemy of good kind of argument. But maybe there should be a way that we can, now fair trade deals with that. ARMS theoretically deals with the product level. So what we're thinking about here is these products that I buy, they're kosher. So. And now the question is, he was asking, does the consumer care? I think that one of your points is, does the consumer actually care if this is a diamond or emeralds or whatever it is that's ethically sourced? And I think what we're seeing is a trend line. I think and you talked about millennials, okay? But you're out in California. You're not in Ottumwa, Iowa, okay? So I think what we're dealing with over here is a very slow-moving, and maybe it won't be so slow because you'll hit a tipping point. But you're talking about a movement in the United States among more concerned and aware consumers. So you're catching something that's a wave, but it's kind of still early. But I think as the millennials get more mature and more orientated towards jewelry, because a lot of them just don't care about jewelry at this stage in their life, okay? But as they become more engaged with jewelry, then I think we're going to see a significant increase in consumer awareness and consumer interest and consumer willing to pay more for products that have some level of responsibility. Now, you know, it's funny because talking to Signet or something, they say, that's a freebie that everybody expects. So, you know, for bigger companies or for bigger brands, they know everything has to be 100% good because they could be subject to brand attacks by, I don't know, well, like who I put up there, the Human Rights Watch or anyone else, okay? So they're doing it out of fear. But the smaller jewelers are in a different game plan. They're not as branded as a group. But maybe there's an opportunity to think about a jeweler being part of an alliance, part of a group of jewelers, because, you know, the name of the game is to protect the small and medium-sized people, whether it's in Sierra Leone or whether it's in the United States, getting run over by some of these bigger companies controlling source certifications. So the idea here would be is maybe we could create some kind of, don't create, we have enough organizations that already exist that would focus on, how should I say, establishing an organization or using existing to certify members that are applying certain rules as to what they're doing in their store, and maybe the product needs to be certified. I think what you originally asked for was what about product certification? I think that can be dealt with, right? We can get people to say we've auditing or there's certain rules. I know that even the DDI has something for artisanal diggers and diamonds. There's endless standards out there that you could maybe comply under. Maybe even the RJC, which I would recommend as well because everybody's using it. Not that it's perfect, but it's the best dog in the show, okay? Now, in terms of your question, what about consumers? You know, it's interesting because the initial researchers were, consumers don't care. But no one tried to market it. You brought up an excellent point about, but I don't want to put it in my showcase because then the rest of my jewelry looks like it's not ethical, right? So I remember having a talk with the head of Signet many years ago about fair trade jewelry. And he was saying, Terry Berman, he was saying, well, I can't do it because if I do it, then my other jewelry doesn't look as good. I believe that's utter nonsense. I think it's total BS. Why? We looked, for example, at the need to have cut grades on diamonds. And for many years, GI refused to put on a cut grade. I pleaded with them for it. Then the American Gem Society did the 000s. And they started to get market share. Then GI suddenly, well, we got to do a cut grade or we're going to lose our business. And that's the big thing, you know, motivating people to implement change because there's competition, which is why I'm such a freak about competition. So no one said because I have XXXs and all my other goods look lousy. Today, 80% of goods are XXX anyways, but in other words, innovation and new products are always going to challenge existing products. So I'm not so worried about people saying, here's a better product for you, here's something special for you. And if people who don't, they deserve to go out of business. People who don't innovate, people who are afraid to put in new products, because they should go out of business. I don't care about those people. So I think what we need to do is we need to encourage a culture of accepting innovation in the responsible jewelry sector. I think that's what we really need, and we need to band together. I can't do this myself very much longer. I'm 66 already, okay? And
Martin, can I just
please.
Just add something?
Please, please.
So, sorry, Edward Johnson from RJC.
There you go.
And there's 4 of us in the room from RJC. There's members of our standards committee here.
Good.
There's members of the auditors from RJC here, and thank you so much for of course, hosting this as you always do. I just wanted to make a couple of really quick points. Thank you for describing us as the best dog in the show. That's
Yes.
nice. We've also been described today as half-assed.
That's true too.
Thank
2
you very
billion.
much.
I have 2 billion questions.
Yeah.
What about
But,
the money from the UAE? Just, you
One
can
thing
explain
that I
to
just
me.
want to say from RJC's perspective, and thank you so much for supporting us.
Yes, I'm a member. I just got audited, so.
We're very keen that we become full-assed, if I may say so. So the point of RJC from the start is to accept an open, transparent system whereby at the moment our 1,100 members are going on a journey with us towards improvement in the supply chain, and we're very welcome to hear other comments. So what I would like to ask you to do is be in touch with us with how you feel we can improve what we're doing. We get this on a daily basis and a regular basis. We'd really appreciate your feedback on that as a leader in this space. The other comment that I'd like to make is, you know, Jeffrey, you made a really important point about what can I do. We've talked about this many times already. You know, whether you feel RJC is right for you at this time, of course, is your decision. Many others are taking it as the right way to go forward, especially from the mining sector. And of course, it's important to note that the developments this year is for RJC through the decision of our board to bring coloured stones into scope of the Code of Practices. So that would be great timing for your Shikizo project. So feel free to talk to us at any time about that, as I've talked to you about before. So, but something that's really important, I recognize many people here are small and medium enterprises in the room. And 63% of RJC's membership is small and medium businesses. And one of the things that's important, whether you wish to join RJC or not, and as Martin has said, it's a good idea to look into that at this time. All of the materials that has been developed over the past 13 years by the industry to develop better business practices in this sector, from mine through to retail, are completely open source. You can access them anytime if you've got an internet connection, which I believe in most countries is available. So it's completely there for the industry's use. And we encourage you to use it. Download what we call our Code of Practices, which is a set of 40 different provisions, and you can work your business management processes against those 40 provisions in your own time to improve your businesses completely free of charge. It's been developed by the industry for the industry. 26 of those provisions really relate to different conditions to help people to run their businesses better in this sector. So I'd encourage you to take a look at our website. I know people don't like to be directed to our website, so I'm here. My colleague Chinello is over there in the corner. My colleague Brandy here is in New York and is next to me. My colleague Andy Bone is at the back. We're very happy to talk to you. We also have a representative from one of the auditors. Marla is also here from UL, who'd also be happy to take your questions. And we're walking around the show, so thank you. That's my comment.
Yeah, let me say, I would encourage people to fully explore the opportunity of RJC. And never get to the point where if it isn't perfect, it's no good. Okay? And it's also a process. I remember talking to the Minister of Mines from Zila about KP, and she says, it's a Kimberley process. It's not Kimberley done. And that's why it's called a process. So while I'm pretty tough on the fact that I expect RJC to explain the $2 billion out of Dubai every year for the last 15 years, okay, I holler, I scream, but let's look at the positive side. Okay? Yeah, the issues that came up here were numerous, and some of them were very good, like, okay, how do we have some kind of a group identification for people that are actually doing stuff? And that may be beyond the scope of what RJC does because of their political configuration, or maybe not. Maybe RJC would sell. We'll have some kind of a tag on a member that has agreed to have certain products. I know that the provenance claim, which directly relates to what we're talking about over here, about a jewelry that is more socially responsible, the provenance claims has a lot of input into the RJC environment. I know that they didn't do a chain of custody for diamonds, maybe political reasons. They did do one for gold. I don't know how you're going to relate to the issue of what about all this gold that's coming out with the mercury. You're talking about a huge amount of gold, huge, right? Huge amount of mercury, but also how much gold? You said 20%?
Yeah, 20% of all the world's gold is fundamentally mined with mercury.
And this is this year? 2017, okay. So now the question is RJC there just to protect the guys who say, our gold's good and I don't really give a damn about the 20%? Or can RJC figure out ways to interact with the issues that this gentleman brings up? What about that 20%? Because a lot of us are looking at the industry, not just our own belly button. How do I protect my business? Now, I can accept the idea that it's legitimate for the RJC to say, we must protect our members. That's okay. But what about the people that are getting poisoned?
Well, thank you.
Do we extend beyond?
Yeah.
Do we go beyond protecting our members as an RJC? And I think maybe that's an important question. So,
I mean, I'm not sure that RJC is there to protect their members. We're there to give our members a platform to improve their business processes. And as I've said, the funding of that also means that all of those processes are completely open source. So, you know, I mean, Toby and I, of course, have been talking for some time now. You mentioned ARM and Kraft, who are working internally within RJC's standards committee. So I think there's a lot of work going on here towards that continual improvement. It's not about resting on any laurels at all.
Yeah, but
it is a journey,
my point
as
is,
you well know.
My point is, what about the 20% of gold that is not good, mother of evil? What about that? Now, I understand. Does the RJC have an extroverted, proactive approach to how to solve that problem? And it's okay if you don't. It's fine. In other words, I don't expect everybody to be everything everywhere. Your issue is there. It's 20% of gold, okay? I know when Michael Kowalski at Tiffany supported the clean gold or whatever, no dirty gold campaign, he got hit by his board of directors on that even. But I'm asking you, and I'm not challenging you, I'm just, what do you think from the perspective of RJC can be done to address the issue that this gentleman brought up that says 20% of the gold that the jewelry industry is buying? Is the jewelry industry buying it? Or?
Jewelry industry is buying 50% of all the gold. 20% of the gold in the world is basically being mined with mercury, where 11,000 pounds every day are being mined.
Right, so we're 10%. What can RJC help us to figure out what we can do about that problem? That's all I'm asking. And it's not an attack. It's just a proactive question.
Absolutely, it can. I can't state what RJC can do as one member of the management team, but certainly we're in discussion with Toby about how we can promote mercury-free mining, his project. And of course, we need approval from our membership and from our board, and we're pushing very hard, and we're talking about that. So, yeah, there's absolutely a platform. It's about education. You know, Minister, I applaud you for talking about the route out of poverty is through education. And that's what everybody's working towards. It's about educating people about Toby's project. It's about educating people that there is a pathway towards brilliance. And diamonds are a part of that. Gold are a part of that. Shikizo emeralds and colored stones are a part of that for many countries around the world. And that's the education that needs to get out to the consumer as well about the work that is being done and has been done for decades. Is it perfect? I don't think anybody here in this room is perfect. Are we on a journey of improvement? Well, personally, I'm trying my best every day. And I know our members are as well. And I think that's the most important point. And these discussions get us talking about it, so that really is important.
I think that it's really time for us to, they've been teaching me that as I'm running a more corporate environment in my own business, I got to end things on time. So I'm going to end things on time here. I do want to conclude, though, with us getting a list. I don't know, I know that I asked the young lady there, but maybe RGC can help us, and maybe you can help us, jewelers, helping jewelers, okay? Can a couple of people get together here and send me a list and say, these are the things that we would like to accomplish between this meeting and next year's meeting, or even if it's a half a year? The dirty gold, the issue of the gold, the issue of what we can do, of a list of all the various initiatives. The trip to maybe Sierra Leone, I'll ask my son Ezzy to deal with that. We'll take on the trips to Sierra Leone, we'll organize, and maybe we'll organize a trip also. Obviously, we'll to Surat and stuff like that, because that's something the Rapaport Initiative wants to do. But all kinds of other ideas. Yeah, and let's see if we can get a list together, and then we know these are our goals, because having these meetings is good, but even better is saying, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. I didn't take notes this time, so we're going to have to kind of get some kind of a WhatsApp group going, or I don't know, but I don't want to make new things. There's so many good things already existing. I don't want to rewrite rules that you've already worked on with RJC. So if we could get together here, and maybe we should get a meeting with you and with the arms guys and a couple of other people together, and have one other maybe closed, not closed, nothing should be closed, everything should be transparent, but one other meeting together maybe before the show's over or something, and maybe without me, you know, and just kind of get down a list of things that we think are, you know, this is the social responsible agenda that we would like to chase. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I think it's really impressive and nice, and with God's help, we'll do good things. All right, everybody.